Have you ever noticed something strange? Some people seem to get more valuable every single year. They become smarter, more confident, better at solving problems, better at making money, better at building relationships. And here's the weird part. Many of them aren't spending thousands of dollars on expensive courses. They aren't buying luxury productivity gadgets. They aren't attending exclusive masterminds. So what's their secret? They keep making tiny investments in themselves. Investments that cost absolutely nothing. Imagine if you had a bank account where every deposit multiplied itself over time. Wouldn't you keep putting money into it? Well, you already have one. It's your mind. Every book you read, every skill you practice, every healthy habit you build, they all earn compound interest. The scary part: ignoring yourself also compounds. Skip learning today. Avoid discomfort tomorrow. Keep making excuses. And a year later, your future self pays the bill. Today, we're going to explore 7 of the highest value investments you can make in yourself without spending a single dollar. Some of these look almost too simple. But don't underestimate them. Sometimes the smallest habits create the biggest transformations. And the final investment might completely change how you think about success. Let's begin. Imagine 2 people graduating on the exact same day. Same school. Same age. Similar grades. 5 years later, one is thriving. The other feels completely stuck. What happened? Luck? Maybe a little. Talent? Not as much as people think. The real difference often comes down to something much less exciting. Curiosity. The first high-value investment is becoming a lifelong learner. Notice something important. This doesn't mean collecting certificates. It doesn't mean memorizing random facts. It means training yourself to constantly ask, why? How? What can I learn from this? Think about children. A 5-year-old asks hundreds of questions every single day. Adults. Many stop asking questions altogether. We assume we already know enough. But the world keeps changing. Technology changes. Jobs change. Industries change. Even human psychology evolves as researchers discover new things. The people who keep learning stay flexible. They're never completely lost because they're always adapting. Here's a simple example. Imagine your phone suddenly stops working. One person immediately panics. I have no idea what to do. Another person says, let's figure this out. Same problem. Different mindset. One waits for rescue. The other starts learning. That habit quietly affects every part of life. Career. Health. Relationships. Money. Confidence. Learning creates options. And options create freedom. The best part: learning has never been cheaper. Libraries exist. Free documentaries exist. Podcasts exist. Public lectures exist. Educational YouTube channels exist. Thousands of experts willingly share decades of knowledge online. Yet many people spend hours scrolling through content they'll forget 5 minutes later. Imagine eating junk food every meal. Your body would eventually suffer. The same thing happens with your mind. Every piece of information you consume becomes mental nutrition. Ask yourself, if your thoughts reflected everything you watched this week, would you like the person you're becoming? Here's a tiny experiment. Spend just 15 minutes every day learning something useful. Not because someone forced you, because you're curious. At first, 15 minutes feels insignificant. But let's do the math. 15 minutes every day equals over 90 hours each year. 90 hours. Imagine practicing photography, learning public speaking, studying psychology, understanding personal finance, improving your writing. After 90 focused hours, you're no longer a beginner. And here's where things get interesting. Learning doesn't just increase knowledge, it changes identity. You stop saying, "I'm bad with money." Instead, you think, "I haven't learned enough about money yet." That's a completely different sentence. One closes the door, the other opens it. The people who improve the fastest aren't always the smartest. They're simply the most willing to stay students, no matter how successful they become. And once curiosity becomes part of your identity, something unexpected happens. You start noticing opportunities that other people completely miss. Which brings us to another investment that looks incredibly small, but quietly determines almost every decision you make. Your environment. Imagine placing an ice cube on a hot sidewalk. Now place the exact same ice cube inside a freezer. Did the ice cube become stronger? No. The environment changed everything. Humans aren't much different. We love believing we're completely independent, that our choices come only from willpower. But the truth is, our surroundings constantly shape our behavior, without us even realizing it. This is the second investment. Upgrade your environment. Not with money, with intention. Look around your room for a moment. What does it encourage you to do? Does your desk invite you to work? Or distract you? Is your phone always within reach? Are snacks sitting in plain sight? Is your notebook hidden inside a drawer while social media sits one tap away? Small details create huge outcomes. Researchers often talk about friction. If something is easy to start, you'll probably do more of it. If something is difficult, you'll probably avoid it. Imagine wanting to read every night. If the book is already sitting on your pillow, you'll probably open it. If it's buried inside a box in another room, you'll probably grab your phone instead. Same motivation, different environment. Now think bigger. Who do you spend time with? Have you noticed how moods spread? Spend enough time around optimistic people. You start thinking bigger. Spend enough time around constant negativity. Your own confidence slowly shrinks. It's almost invisible. Like standing in the sun. You don't notice yourself getting warmer, until suddenly you're sweating. Energy works the same way. Your environment isn't only physical, it's also digital. Open your social media feed. What do you see? Complaints, arguments, fear, or ideas? Creativity, learning, hope. Every scroll trains your brain. Your feed becomes your future thoughts. Imagine planting a garden. You wouldn't throw random seeds into the soil and hope for beautiful flowers. You'd choose carefully. Your attention deserves the same care. Protect it. Because attention is becoming one of the most valuable resources in the modern world. Companies spend billions trying to capture it. Why? Because where attention goes, behavior follows. And behavior eventually becomes your life. Here's a challenge. For the next week, Remove one distraction from your environment. Just one. Maybe move your phone across the room before bed. Maybe unsubscribe from negative content. Maybe clean your workspace. Maybe place a notebook where you'll see it first thing every morning. Tiny changes. Massive ripple effects. The funny thing is, people often wait until they're motivated before changing their environment. But successful people usually do the opposite. They change the environment. So motivation becomes less necessary. And once your environment starts working for you instead of against you, you'll notice another invisible skill becoming easier. A skill so powerful, it can completely change how people see you. And surprisingly, it doesn't require being the smartest person in the room. Most people think the smartest person always wins. But have you ever noticed something? You can meet someone with 3 university degrees who struggles to explain a simple idea. Then you meet someone with average grades, and within 5 minutes, everyone in the room is listening. Why? Because knowledge is valuable. But communication is what unlocks its value. This is the third investment. Learn to communicate clearly. And here's the best part. It costs nothing. You don't need an expensive coach. You don't need a perfect vocabulary. You don't even need to be naturally outgoing. You simply need practice. Imagine finding the cure for a disease, but being unable to explain it to anyone. Your knowledge would stay trapped inside your head. Communication is the bridge between your ideas and the rest of the world. Every opportunity in life passes through that bridge. A job interview, a first date, a business meeting, a friendship, a negotiation, even talking to yourself. Yes, the conversation inside your own mind matters too. Think about it. If every mistake is followed by, "I'm so stupid. I always fail. I'll never figure this out." How motivated would you feel? Probably not very. Now compare that with, "That didn't work. What can I improve? I've learned something." Same situation. Completely different direction. Words shape emotions. Emotions shape actions. Actions shape results. Now let's look outside your own head. Have you ever listened to someone tell a story, and somehow they made buying groceries sound exciting? Then another person tells you about the adventure of a lifetime, and somehow it feels boring. Facts matter. Stories stick. Our brains are wired to remember stories. For thousands of years, humans passed knowledge through storytelling. Not spreadsheets. Not bullet points. Stories. That's why when you explain an idea, use examples. Paint pictures with words. Instead of saying, "Discipline is important," say, "Imagine waking up every morning with 2 versions of yourself standing beside your bed." One whispers, "Go back to sleep." The other says, "Future you will thank you." Every morning, one of them wins. Which version do you remember more? Exactly. Here's another secret. Great communicators ask great questions. Most conversations sound like this. I, may, might, my opinion, my experience. But the people everyone enjoys talking to. Become curious. What do you think? How did that happen? What surprised you? People love talking to someone who genuinely listens. Listening is communication too. In fact, many people aren't waiting to understand. They're waiting for their turn to speak. Imagine two radios trying to broadcast at the same time. Neither receives the signal. Real conversations work differently. One speaks. One listens. Then they switch. It's simple, but surprisingly rare. Here's a challenge. Today, have one conversation where your goal isn't to impress anyone. Your goal is simply to understand them better. Notice how differently people respond. You might be surprised. Because when people feel heard, they naturally trust you more. And trust opens doors that talent alone never could. Now here's something even more interesting. Every conversation you have is also practice for the most important conversation of your life. The one you'll have tomorrow. Communication compounds. Just like learning. A tiny improvement every day becomes confidence. Confidence becomes influence. Influence creates opportunities. And opportunities change lives. But even perfect communication has limits. Because eventually, life throws something at you that words alone can't fix. A rejection. A failure. A setback. A day when nothing goes according to plan. That's when another invisible investment becomes priceless. Imagine two identical trees standing side by side. The same height. The same age. The same soil. Then a powerful storm arrives. Afterward, one tree is still standing. The other is lying on the ground. What made the difference? The storm. No. The roots. You couldn't see them. But they determined everything. The fourth investment is building emotional resilience. Not avoiding hard times. Becoming stronger because of them. Here's the truth nobody enjoys hearing. Life isn't going to stop testing you. There will always be delays. Unexpected bills. Broken plans. Awkward conversations. Criticism. Failures. You can't control every storm. But you can strengthen your roots. Think about a video game. If every level were easy, would anyone keep playing? Probably not. The challenge is what makes progress satisfying. Real life works the same way. Problems aren't always signs you're failing. Sometimes they're proof you're growing. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. Did you fall? Almost certainly. Did falling mean bicycles weren't for you? Of course not. It meant you were learning. Yet somehow adults forget this. We fail once. And suddenly assume, I'm just not good at this. No. You're just in the falling phase. Every expert you've ever admired spent time looking like a beginner. Here's another thought. Resilient people don't have fewer emotions. They simply recover faster. They still feel disappointed. They still get nervous. They still experience fear. The difference is, they don't build a permanent home inside those feelings. They visit. They learn. Then they move forward. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack. Every disappointment is another rock. You can spend your whole life collecting rocks. Or you can stop every so often. Take one out. And keep walking lighter. Forgiveness works like that. Especially forgiving yourself. So many people replay old mistakes for years. As if guilt alone will rewrite the past. It won't. But learning from the mistake, that changes the future. Here's a question. What's one failure that still embarrasses you? Now imagine your best friend experienced the exact same thing. Would you call them hopeless? Would you tell them their future is ruined? Probably not. So why speak to yourself that way? Your inner voice becomes your emotional climate. If it's always storming, growth becomes difficult. But if that voice becomes calmer, even difficult seasons become manageable. One simple habit can help. At the end of a hard day, ask yourself only one question. What did today teach me? Not, why am I unlucky? Not, why does this always happen? Instead, what can I carry forward? That tiny shift changes everything. Because pain without learning is suffering. Pain with learning becomes wisdom. And wisdom is one investment nobody can steal from you. Think back to the strongest people you've ever met. Were their lives easy? Usually not. Their strength wasn't built during peaceful days. It was built by surviving difficult ones. Every challenge quietly added another layer. Another route. Another reason not to quit. So the next time life feels difficult, remember the trees. The strongest growth often happens where nobody can see it. And speaking of things people rarely notice, the next investment is almost invisible. Most people ignore it every single day. Yet it silently determines how much energy, focus, and discipline you have. And the surprising part is, you already own it. You wake up after 8 hours of sleep. One morning, you feel unstoppable. Ideas come easily. You finish your work. You stay patient. You even have energy left at the end of the day. Another morning, you slept about the same amount. But everything feels harder. Small problems seem huge. You procrastinate. You lose focus. You snap people over tiny things. What changed? Most people blame motivation. But very often, the real answer is energy. This is the fifth investment. Protect your physical and mental energy. Because energy is the fuel behind every goal. Imagine owning the fastest sports car in the world. Now imagine filling it with the wrong fuel. It doesn't matter how powerful the engine is. Without the right fuel, it won't perform. Your brain works the same way. People often say, I need more discipline. Sometimes that's true. But many times, what you really need is sleep. Or water. Or movement. Or a short break. Think about your phone. When the battery drops to 1%, even the best apps become useless. You don't blame the apps. You charge the phone. Yet humans often do the opposite. We ignore exhaustion. Drink another coffee. Push harder. Then wonder why we're burned out. Here's something surprising. Your brain uses an incredible amount of energy every single day. Even when you're sitting still. Every decision. Every conversation. Every problem you solve consumes mental fuel. That's why decision fatigue is real. Have you ever noticed how easy it becomes to order junk food after making difficult decisions all day? Or how you suddenly lose the willpower to exercise at night? It's not always laziness. Sometimes your mental battery is simply running low. Successful people understand this. They don't only manage time, they manage energy. There's a difference. Imagine having 2 extra hours every day, but feeling exhausted during both. Would those hours really help? Probably not. Now imagine having just one focused hour. With a clear mind, you'd accomplish far more. Energy creates quality. Time only creates quantity. Let's talk about movement. You don't need an expensive gym membership. You don't need fancy equipment. Walk, stretch, do a few push-ups, dance in your room. Anything that reminds your body. You were built to move. Movement isn't just for muscles. It changes your brain. Many people wait until they feel like exercising. Ironically, exercise is often what creates the feeling they were waiting for. The same is true for sunlight. Fresh air, good posture, even smiling. Your body constantly sends signals to your brain. Change the body, and your mind often follows. Now let's discuss something people rarely protect. Attention. Every notification steals a tiny piece of it. Every unnecessary interruption forces your brain to restart. Imagine trying to read a book while someone taps your shoulder every 30 seconds. You'd never finish the chapter. That's exactly what constant notifications do. Your attention is becoming one of the most expensive resources in the world. Companies compete for it. Apps are designed to keep it. Algorithms fight over every second of it. So ask yourself, if billion-dollar companies are trying to capture your attention, shouldn't you protect it? Here's a small experiment. Tomorrow morning, don't touch your phone for the first 30 minutes. Instead, drink water, stretch, write your thoughts, read one page, or simply enjoy a quiet morning. Notice how different your mind feels. Because whoever controls the first moments of your day often controls the rest of it. Now imagine living this way for a year. A little more sleep, a little more movement, a little more focus, a little less distraction. Those tiny improvements don't stay tiny. They multiply. People will think you suddenly became more disciplined. But the truth is, you simply started protecting your energy. And once your energy improves, you'll discover another hidden advantage. You finally have enough mental space to think about something bigger than today's problems. Which leads us to the sixth investment, one that separates people who merely stay busy from people who actually move forward. Imagine climbing a ladder for 20 years. Every day, you work harder, climb faster, push yourself higher. Then one day, you finally reach the top, only to realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. That's one of the biggest tragedies in life. Not failing, succeeding at something that doesn't actually matter to you. The sixth investment is learning to reflect. Most people spend hours planning their next week. Very few spend even 10 minutes asking, am I heading in the right direction? Reflection isn't laziness. It's navigation. Imagine driving across the country. Would you keep your eyes closed and simply press the gas pedal harder? Of course not. You'd check the map, adjust your route, maybe even make a U-turn. Life deserves the same attention. Yet many people stay so busy. They never stop to ask where they're going. Busyness can feel productive, but movement isn't always progress. Picture a hamster running inside a wheel. Lots of effort, lots of motion, no change in location. Sometimes our lives look exactly like that. Wake up, scroll, work, eat, watch videos, sleep, repeat. Days become weeks. Weeks become years. Then one day, people wonder where the time went. Reflection breaks that cycle. It interrupts autopilot. Here's a simple habit. At the end of each week, ask yourself 3 questions. What went well? What didn't? What will I do differently next week? That's it. No complicated journals. No perfect system. Just honesty. Because honesty creates clarity. And clarity creates direction. Think about professional athletes. After almost every game, they watch recordings of themselves. Not because they enjoy seeing their mistakes. Because mistakes become lessons. Imagine if they refused to watch. I don't want feedback. I'll just keep playing. Would they improve? Not for long. Life gives you feedback every single day. Reflection helps you notice it. Sometimes you'll discover something surprising. Maybe you're chasing someone else's dream. Maybe you've been saying yes when you really wanted to say no. Maybe you've been working incredibly hard on things that barely matter. Without reflection, those patterns stay invisible. Here's another question. When was the last time you sat quietly? Without music. Without notifications. Without trying to escape boredom. For many people, that's become surprisingly difficult. Silence feels uncomfortable. But silence is where thinking happens. The world constantly tells you what to want. Reflection gives you the chance to decide for yourself. That's incredibly valuable. Because a clear direction beats endless speed. Every single time. Imagine 2 hikers. One walks quickly in the wrong direction. The other walks slowly, but follows the correct path. Who reaches the destination first? Exactly. Speed without direction is wasted effort. Reflection gives your effort meaning. It transforms activity into progress. And here's something fascinating. The more you reflect, the better your future decisions become. Every lesson compounds. Every mistake becomes tuition instead of tragedy. Every success teaches you what to repeat. That's one of the greatest returns on investment you'll ever receive. But there's still one more investment left. And unlike the others, almost everyone believes they already understand it. The truth is, most people don't. Because this final investment isn't about learning more. It's about becoming someone others can't ignore. And it quietly influences every opportunity you'll ever receive. That's where we're going next. Imagine walking into a room where nobody knows your name. Within minutes, some people naturally draw others toward them. Not because they're the loudest. Not because they're the richest. Not because they're the funniest. There's something different about them. People trust them. People respect them. People remember them. What's their secret? It usually isn't talent. It's consistency. This is the 7th and final investment. Become the kind of person people can count on. At first, that sounds almost too simple. But think about it. Who would you rather hire? Someone brilliant, who constantly misses deadlines, or someone reliable, who always does what they say they'll do? Most people choose reliability. Every single time. Here's something interesting. Trust isn't built through one big moment. It's built through hundreds of tiny ones. Returning a phone call. Showing up on time. Keeping a promise. Admitting a mistake. Doing quality work. Even when nobody is watching. Imagine building a bridge. Each promise you keep adds another steel beam. Each promise you break removes one. Eventually, people either feel safe crossing that bridge or they avoid it completely. Your reputation works exactly the same way. And here's the exciting part: you build it every day. Without realizing it, think back to someone you've admired. Maybe it was a teacher, a coach, a parent, a coworker. What made them unforgettable? Was it because they knew every answer? Probably not. More likely, they were dependable. When they said they'd help, they helped. When they made a mistake, they owned it. When things became difficult, they didn't disappear. That's rare. And rare things become valuable. Now let's talk about promises. Not the promises you make to other people, the promises you make to yourself. I'm going to wake up earlier. I'm going to finish this project. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to stop procrastinating. Every time you keep one of those promises, something invisible happens. Your self-trust grows. Imagine having a friend who constantly lied to you. Eventually, you'd stop believing them. Now imagine that friend is you. Every Monday you promise to start. Every Tuesday you postpone it. Every Wednesday you make another excuse. After enough repetitions, your own brain stops believing your words. That's why small wins matter so much. Don't promise yourself you'll change your entire life overnight. Promise something tiny. Read one page. Walk for 10 minutes. Write one paragraph. Drink one extra glass of water. Then keep that promise. Again. And again. And again. Each completed promise becomes another vote for the person you're becoming. James Clear famously described habits as votes for your identity. Whether you've read his work or not, the idea is powerful. Every action answers the question, who am I becoming? When you practice guitar, you're becoming someone who practices. When you save money, you're becoming someone who plans ahead. When you choose kindness, you're becoming someone people enjoy being around. Identity isn't created by one dramatic moment. It's created by repeated actions. Imagine sculpting a statue. One strike of the hammer changes almost nothing. 1,000 careful strikes reveal a masterpiece. That's your life. Tiny actions, repeated consistently. Over months. Over years. Most people underestimate this because change feels invisible. Think about planting a seed. You water it today. Nothing happens. You water it tomorrow. Still nothing. A week passes. Still no tree. Did your effort fail? No. Growth was happening underground. The roots were expanding long before the leaves appeared. Self-improvement works exactly the same way. People usually notice your success long after you've been doing the work. That's why consistency looks boring. Until one day, it looks extraordinary. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine two airplanes leaving the same airport. One changes its direction by just 1 degree. That's almost impossible to notice. But after thousands of miles, they land on completely different continents. Life follows the same principle. Tiny daily choices. Massive long-term consequences. One extra book each month. One less hour of mindless scrolling. One honest conversation. One healthy meal. One difficult decision made instead of avoided. None of those will transform your life overnight. Together, they transform everything. Now here's the question that really matters. What if you actually committed to these 7 investments? Not for a week. Not until motivation disappears. But for an entire year. Imagine who you'd become. You'd know more. Think more clearly. Communicate with confidence. Handle setbacks without falling apart. Protect your energy. Make better decisions. Become someone others trust. Would your income necessarily change overnight? Maybe. Maybe not. But something even more important would. Your value. And here's the beautiful thing about value. When you become more valuable, opportunities begin finding you. People notice. Employers notice. Clients notice. Friends notice. Even you notice. Because confidence isn't something you buy. It's something you earn through repeated evidence. Every kept promise. Every lesson learned. Every challenge overcome. Every tiny investment. Remember the beginning of this video. We talked about compound interest. Most people think of compound interest as money growing in a bank account. But your habits compound too. Your knowledge compounds. Your confidence compounds. Your relationships compound. Your character compounds. Every single day. You're making deposits. Or withdrawals. The choice is yours. So before you click away, take a moment and ask yourself one question. Which of these 7 investments have you been ignoring? Don't try to fix all 7 today. Pick one. Just one. Start so small that you can't talk yourself out of it. Because your future isn't built by giant life-changing moments. It's built by ordinary days. Repeated with extraordinary consistency. One day you'll look back and realize the person you wanted to become was created by hundreds of tiny decisions nobody else ever saw. That's the real secret. Not luck. Not talent. Not perfect timing. Just consistent investment. In the one asset you'll own for your entire life. Yourself. If you enjoyed this video and found even one idea worth keeping, make sure to hit the like button so more people can discover it. Subscribe for more videos on self-improvement, discipline, mindset, and building a better life, one small step at a time. And now tell me in the comments, which of these 7 zero-cost investments are you starting today? I'd love to read your answer. Until next time, keep investing in yourself. Because you're the one investment that can pay dividends for the rest of your life.